Just the good old boys. Never meaning no harm. Been in trouble with the critics since the day they were born. Those iconic comic boys are at it again. Releasing books straight to the Iconic Comics website. So, all right. So I'm back. It's been a while. Happy New Year. If you could hear me all right, just let me know. If there's any technical issues, I will fix those as soon as possible. I'm back from Montana. I was there for basically a couple weeks. I was chilling out. I was doing some research. I was hanging out with family. I was hanging out with the dog, doing some house stuff. Bianca fights the zombies. Aloha, aloha. And yeah, it was a little rough because whenever I'm in Montana, certain parts, I have limited access to my files. Certain things are on my home computer. Internet is sometimes a little dodgy depending on where you are. So that was a little rough. I've been catching up today, but today, dropping the old Soulfinder Infinite Ascent on the Iconic Comics website, and it actually was up around midnight, maybe a little before yesterday, like 11:30 p.m., something along those lines. And so there was a couple people that they are just Johnny on the spot. They got eagle eyes. They knew right away. And one dude in particular is pretty cool, letting people know right away. I think I retweeted it last night. Jefferson, if you're out there, thank you. Very, very fast, very quick on the draw. And yeah, since last night around midnight, things are going well. Very happy. We had a limited run. We had a batch of the Kiro rosaries inspired by Soulfinder and created in basically, well, not the symbol itself, but Timothy Lim was the man responsible for putting it into the Soulfinder universe with the last summer's crossover event, and that's going to now appear in volume 4. So Timothy Lim, thank you for that. Anyway, we're just about sold out of these. I think this was hours ago. There were 7 left. Rugged Rosaries contacted me today. They said that they were able to do 50 more, so that's a total run of 100 of those. I got a couple for myself. I gave one to Tim for Christmas, essentially, as a thank you. And I have a very small batch for international customers. I know there's in practicing Catholics, people that I know for sure would want them. So I put a couple off to the side. There's one guy in Puerto Rico. I know he wants one, so I got one for him. So if you're international, you want the rosary, I got it. You will get the Kiro, especially if you contact me within the next couple weeks. But the second batch of 50, probably all of them are going to go to Iconic Comics. And those have been selling well. And I know for a fact that dozens of people already got their shipping information today. So they ordered sometime either around midnight or afterwards. And before the end of the day, literally dozens of people had their shipping info. These books are already going out. That is what I like to see. I know dozens more. They will get those out tomorrow. So yeah, hardcovers going well. And I couldn't be happier. People are spreading the word. They're tweeting about it, sharing on social media. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And it's the early bird special. So if you got the saddle stitch, just letting you know, the hardcover, basically, it's like 156 pages total, 72 pages of the story colored, 72 pages of Matt Weldon's inks, which are, you just got to see what he does, just the inks alone, to see what a great job he does. And then there's some bonus art. There's the religious stuff like last time. There's a piece that Matt did that almost became a cover, and it was so good. Like, it's basically, it's like kind of penciled, kind of inked, but you'll see it. It's really cool. it almost worked itself into the story as a splash page, or then it was like maybe a cover. It's Chua and Redder on the top of this cliff, and Chua's got his rifle, and it's like, down, and they're both kind of like looking out over the cliff, over this like Tibetan mountainous landscape type of thing. And it's just really cool. So I put that in there. We got the gold gilded pages. We got the white ribbon. I wasn't sure whether I should say this or not, but long story short, some guy, I don't know the exact details, but I wanted silver gilding, and probably some guy at a plant, God bless you, was not paying attention, and he did gold gilding instead of silver. And so then I wound up with 1,200 books that were cool, but they had gold gilding instead of silver. So then it's like, okay, well, do you tell the printer you're going to eat all of this and you're going to reprint all these books and you're going to do silver gilding? Or do you just make, say, take lemons and make lemonade sort of thing? Because most people are not going to be like, oh, you had gold on the second one and now you had gold on this one. Like, how dare you? Like, no one's going to get upset over that. So I was like, whatever. I was like, here's the deal. Let's just work something out. So I think what's going to happen is I will probably get a small run of silver, which I could give out as Doug prizes. It's just like a limited run or something along those lines. Either that or they're going to basically reimburse me. I think those are the two options, and they're working with me. So, as I have said before, you are never across the finish line until you are across the finish line when it comes to indie comics. You might think everything is all right, but until the books are physically in your hand and you've inspected them and everything is right, then it's one of those things where it's like, was it Schrodinger's cat? Sort of like, you don't know what's in the box, or this box, or you don't know what's in the box until you open the box. It could be anything, some sort of weird quantum reality thing going on. But I am very happy with the way the books turned out. AL, thanks for tuning in. Tillium, thanks for tuning in. VMRE, thanks for tuning in. AL says, I got your third book. It's good. Thank you. I appreciate that. Boom, put that up there for now. So yeah, that's the other thing, is the books are out. They've been out for a long time. There was somebody in my community tab. I'm not trying to be mean, dude, if you're watching this, but he was like, well, are you also going to have soft covers? And I was like, yeah, they've been on the website since last summer. So it was like one of those things where it's like, dude, I've been posting in my community tab on Twitter, on Instagram. I've been randomly live streaming. I don't know how you didn't know that the Saddle Stitch were out there, but they are. And so if you want the Saddle Stitch, you got them. If you want to see the reviews are out there. The ALs and other people, the Tomes, he's done reviews. So AL, I'm not on social media, so you probably won't hear much from me. Social media is one of those double-edged swords. It's a good thing. It could be a bad thing. But yeah, so anyway, people that want the soft covers, you got the soft covers. Now, if you want the hard covers, you got the hard covers. If you want the old school rosaries, I got a limited number of those. You want the Kiro rosaries, got a limited number of those. You want the Soulfinder bundle, you got bundles going on, collector's bundle, all this sort of stuff. And at least this week, I might see if I kind of can, I'll talk to him about it, see what's up. The Soulfinder Warcry, the short story, which we're for now just calling 3.5. If you get the hardcover book, then you get Warcry for free. Now, if you have previously ordered, before this was on the website, if you got the Saddle Stitch, as I have said before, if you contact me privately and show me that you had ordered from Iconic, I will get you Warcry. So don't be like, oh, you're switching things up. You're giving some people for free and not for me, blah, 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 blah. No, if you're one of the early adopters of the Saddle Stitch, I will get you Warcry. You just got to show me proof. That's all. And but at some point in time, we have to make this transition where Warcry is going to be on the website. It'll be as a very cheap add-on at some point. It's a 12-page short story, and then Matt Weldon's inks again are in there with some bonus art by Jeff Spokes, and the front cover by Alejandro Mirabal, back cover by Jeff Spokes. It's pretty solid, if I do say so myself. It's kind of snazzy. So that's where we're going with that. Iconic Comics 2023 is shaping up really nicely. It is not my place to show certain things, to talk about certain things, but I know what Tim and Mark are up to with their books, and it's freaking cool. And Eric Canetti's got some stuff that's just over the horizon. It's really sharp. So the next essentially month or so, 2 months with Iconic Comics stuff, if you like Iconic Comics, you're going to be pretty happy. So let's see. Pepe, Doug, do you have a specific methodology when creating a story, or do you typically just let it flow freely and shape it as you go? Long story short, I typically have big, quote unquote, big picture universal themes that I want to explore. So again, as I've said before, the first book was Why Do Bad Things Happen to Good People? The second book was kind of an allegory, or I should really say like a metaphor for anxiety and depression and hopelessness and the abyss and things that people struggle with. So I start with these sort of universal questions or chords that could be struck. And then from there, I do research on those themes. I try and find books that I have not read before. And then from there, I keep narrowing it down. So then I say, okay, what would be a situation I could put Father Redder in and Shua and Father Crane in that would make sense with this theme? What are some other metaphors I could come up with in terms of the demons that represent certain things? And so I'm trying to make it work on multiple levels. And then I just sort of work out the scaffolding, the creative scaffolding in my head over maybe weeks, maybe even a couple months. And so I'm just kind of thinking about it, doing my research, taking notes. And then eventually there's this nebulous sort of cloud. It's got some form to it. I can't explain it, but it's basically in my head. I know what I want to write. I know almost specific scenes, very, very specific pictures, certain panels. And then at some point in time, it's like you just got to start writing, and then I go from there. But because most of it is kind of organized in my head from the get-go, the writing goes pretty smoothly. AL, sorry, I got to go. Mom is having surgery early tomorrow morning, so I got to get up and go to the hospital. Please pray it's successful. She's 87, so this is risky. Thanks. AL, I will definitely pray for your mother tonight and tomorrow and the next night and going forward. And anyone else who's religious in the chat, please pray for AL's mom as well. I know how that goes with older parents who are having surgeries and grandparents and things like that. So definitely your mom will be in our prayers. Pepe circling back. So yeah, that's the short answer is I start, the scope is rather wide, and then I just keep narrowing it down. And eventually you just reach a point where it's pretty much organized and you got to go for it. And then it's just very specific puzzles that you're trying to solve along the way. So sometimes the characters and how they would behave logically for a given scene, sometimes your own characters kind of surprise you in a way. It's like, you don't want to say that they're alive, but they're almost, if you're doing it right, sometimes your own characters, you're like, no, this is what he would do in this situation. If you know them well enough, you're like, and then it takes it into a little bit different direction, but you know where it's got to go, the story. And then it's like, well, how do I get there in a way that makes sense with the characters, that doesn't betray the characters and their integrity, and doesn't betray the trust of the reader? So all of that is very interesting to me as a writer. And I may have said this before, but I think writers are truly blessed in a sense, in that in a very rudimentary, very seen, what is it, through the glass darkly, or however you want to say it, you are a creator, and you come to actually care for these characters that they're not real, but they may as well be in your head. And like the trials and tribulations that they go through, you actually get like weirdly emotional at times as you're putting them through those sorts of ordeals. You're giving them certain crosses to bear, and because you have empathy and you could put yourself in the shoes of, you say, okay, well, if this were me, how would I react to it? And some of the things, especially with the Soulfinder books, I try and have it essentially, there's supernatural elements, but it's very much based in the real world. I mean, the supernatural is real as well, but you know what I'm talking about. So I like to have things that people could relate to. And so if as a writer, you get this sort of emotional about your own characters and creators that are not really real, but they're as real as you could make them in your head, then I always think about it like, oh, well, if I care this much about my own fictional characters and they surprise me, is it really that much of a stretch that God would have an infinite amount of love for his own creations that are real and do have free will and can not surprise God, but act in ways that maybe the creator not knows is not in the character's best interest in the long run. But that gets into all sorts of other theological conversations. I could go on for hours. Let's see, Pepe Doug. When your characters surprise you, do you feel cornered sometimes, or do you enjoy the challenge of getting everything to fit? It's not that. No, I never feel cornered. But some puzzles are definitely more difficult than others. And when that happens, sometimes you just got to put things away for a couple days and return to them with a fresh eye almost. Or what I also do is sometimes, this might sound weird to people, but I will essentially tell my own brain before I go to bed. I was like, hey, brain, I need you. I'm essentially talking to my subconscious mind. You subconscious mind, it's like the iceberg. The tip of the iceberg is your conscious mind, and then underneath is all the stuff that you don't see, like sort of operations going on. If it was like a computer, there's all sorts of programs running that they're part of you, but you're not really cognizant of them. And so I basically tell my subconscious mind right before I go to bed at night, I was like, hey, here's the problem I have. Please work on this problem. And then I go to bed. And a lot of times I will literally wake up the next morning and it's solved. Or like maybe 2 or 3 days later, it's like, boom, it just literally like pops in my head, the answer. Like it was like baking in the oven. And then it's just like, ding, and it's just done. And you're like, oh, thank you. So, and then if you could get into religious stuff too, I'm trying to be careful with all this. But it is a Soulfinder book. So I also pray a lot as well, because I want my books to do honor to my creator. So I'm essentially praying like, hey, God, little informal there. God, Holy Spirit, I'm really trying to do a good job with this book. Can you help me? I don't know if I'm doing the right thing half the time, but if you help me, I will know when I'm on the right track or wrong track. I need help. I am a pathetic individual, God. I am nothing. I am literally made from nothing. I acknowledge this. I need help. I need serious help on so many levels. And then oftentimes my prayers are essentially answered. So, and usually, you're on the right track if you're like, okay, you feel good. There's a certain, you've been struggling with something, and then the idea comes to you, and you're just like, you just know. I can't explain it. It's like, I don't even want to say it's just a feeling, because your feelings can sometimes lie to you, but it's a feeling mixed with a knowledge or something along those lines. I need to get back to blogging, because extemporaneously just talking about this stuff, it's hard. It's really hard to articulate. It's hard to be eloquent with it, but you just kind of know when something feels right. And similarly, there are times where I'm not happy with something, but I was talking to someone today, an iconic dude, actually the guy who's doing all the logistics with getting the stuff on the website. There's actually a very nice woman, very hardworking woman, who also helps out. But I was talking to the guy today, and we were talking about not letting the perfect be the enemy of the good or the great. And so sometimes you're running up against your own self-imposed deadlines, and you're like, this isn't quite right, but I can spend forever on this. And sometimes you gotta go forward, and it's not going to be perfect, and you just kind of know that. But you can spend all day until the cows come home, turning over certain things in your mind and picking them apart and putting them back together. And um just sometimes it's just not going to be perfect, and you just got to trust that the overall product is what you wanted it to be or more. And so for the first book, I was very, very happy with the first book. I was happy with the second book, but I made mistakes along the way. I actually did rush things a little bit more than I wanted to, but I was also learning how to do the hardcover books. And I was so focused on getting these hardcovers done that there was a couple things that slipped through the cracks I was not happy about. Now, in the saddle stitch version of Black Tide, I went back. That was fixed, a couple things. So if you get the saddle stitch version of Black Tide, then there's a couple little tweaks here and there that I put in Admiral Cameron Styx's full name at one point. And so and then at the end, I just made it much clearer for anyone who didn't see the visual similarities, that it was the same guy, That's a whole other story. But so I made some mistakes on the second book. I was also being very ambitious, because it's actually part 2 of a 3-part story arc. And so that's a whole other issue. But overall, I'm happy with it. And I know that when the whole arc is told, that all the puzzle pieces will come together and it'll make sense. The third book, I'm very happy with Infinite Ascent here, because I actually had time to do what I wanted to do. I had quit the newspaper. I left corporate media. I had time to gather my thoughts. I didn't have another job. I didn't have people pulling me in 10,000 different directions. I took a little bit more time, and I knew the process. Now, Joseph at API passed away due to COVID and other complicated health. He was already sick. He had pneumonia, I believe, other things. He was like the guy who helped me out so much on Black Tide, and he was gone, unfortunately. And you can see how much one person can have an impact on another person's life when somebody's gone. Because when Joseph was gone, then it was like, I learned a lot from him along the way, but I was like, So that's a whole other thing. But I'm very, very happy with the third book and how that turned out. And then Matt and I have been working together. So that was the second book. Now Matt and I are working together on the fourth book. And I feel like when you start working with someone, like the first time you work with an artist, you both have your own ways of like dealing with creative obstacles and working out different puzzles again. And every time you work with that person again and again, you get that like sort of synergy going. And I feel like, I've been blessed to work with Tim, and I've been blessed to work with Matt. But every time I work with Matt, it seems like, I don't know, we just get more and more like he knows exactly my rhythm, creative rhythm. And, it's just been very cool. And actually, Timothy Lim was the one who introduced me to Matt Weldon. So I've said it before. If you take Timothy Lim out of the equation of Soulfinder, It's either doesn't exist or it doesn't exist anything like its current form. And it definitely is not going into its fourth book right now. I'm probably still working at the newspaper if I never meet Tim. I can't, I mean, it's so weird to think about all the different forks in the road and how one person affects your life and all this sort of stuff. I'm always fascinated by those things where you can pick very, very specific points in your life where if one thing, boop, it just changed a little bit, you go in a completely different direction. It's like you hit the ball on the bat or the golf, you're swinging the golf club, and if you just are off by a little bit, the whole trajectory just changes. Tony Robbins had a talk on that sort of stuff years ago. He was the one who used the golf analogy, and I always thought it was super cool. But it's legit. That is what happens. You take one person out, and one person who doesn't give you a certain advice, and everything changes. It's crazy to think about, and it's been that way with Tim and Matt Weldon specifically. Now, I used Matt Weldon's art today for volume 4 in promotion for volume 3 because I want people to be like, hey, this guy's not going away. So if you're a critic and you're just lurking there in the shadows right now, they're going through their head, they're like, ah, crap, Doug is not going away. We thought he was going to be done after this Demons match, but he's back. And then he did Black Tide. We thought he'd be done with Black Tide, but then he did Infinite Ascent. And now he's got this Vietnam story that's going down. Oh! So then we're dropping it, boom. And Matt's art, I kind of didn't want to. Let me see. Where's AL? Take this off so you can see Matt's full art here. Matt is every book, he just keeps taking it to another level. He gets better and better and better and better. Tim and I were talking about this. The blades of grass. Every blade of grass in this war, there is a Matt Weldon behind every single blade of grass. It's insane. So we got Father Blatty. You got Father Blatty here. If you read Tim's books, Mark's books, young Father Blatty, looking sharp. You got young Reginald Crane going on. This character is more of a minor part. Won't talk about him now. We got Father Lamb with the Kiro on his chest there. Man, I'm so happy with volume 4. I can't. I know it's still volume 3, but I wish I could show you what Matt's been working on. And I don't know. As long as Matt is happy working with me, I want to work with Matt. I want to make sure that he is creatively happy and he's going down different creative roads that he wants to go down to stay inspired and psyched and all of this. And in his work motivates me to work harder on every single one because I don't want to let Matt down. I want to put out hardcover books that do this kind of level of work justice, because how can you have an artist do this level of work and then just slop together some sort of whatever the heck? There's no way I can do it. So I do not care what I have to spend to do this level of art justice. I'm going to do it. Because I want people to have something on their shelves that 10 years from now they could pick up and they could look at it and they'd be like, man, this was a good story. I got to read this again. Or they got a kid and their kid's coming of the appropriate age to read about combat veteran exorcists. And they're like, hey, Mike or whoever, like, check this out. I read this years ago. It was a really good book. It's got some good messages in it. And I think you'll get something out of it. And here you go, Mike, or whatever. Let's see. Go back to the chat here. Penelope, thanks for tuning in. Happy New Year. All right. AL said good night. Neostar is here. Thanks again for tuning in, Neostar. Pepe, Doug, when your character is surprised. Okay, got that. Pepe says, thanks. I appreciate the insight on characters. It's cool to hear about how people come up with their ideas and solve creative problems. Do you think Catholicism is the biggest influence in your work? I think, well, so how do I say this in a non-denominational way? Uh, yes, it is, in the sense that if I'm trying to honor God, and if I know that one day I'm going to die and stand before my creator, and I am going to have to answer for everything that I've said and done, and even things that I've thought and conceded to, things that I've sinfully conceded to in my mind over the years, and maybe I've not done proper contrition for. Anyway, the things that I put out into the world, I got to answer for those someday. And I got a lot of stuff to answer for. So I know that I'm trying to make up for lost time right now. Made a lot of mistakes over the years. And so if I want to do God justice, and every time you put something creative into the world, it's affecting people, whether garbage in, garbage out. You put healthy vegetables into your mind, then your body rewards you with good health or whatever. So if I'm creatively giving people a nice dish that is healthy and full of nutrients, then that's good. But if I'm giving people garbage, if at the end of the day someone consumes my work and I have moved them further away from God, which is further away from the person that God designed them to be, who stitched them in the womb of time, or however you want to say, if I have pushed people by any number of degrees further away from their creator, then I have done I have done a bad thing. And I even talking about the possibility of it, it's hard for me to talk about it. So I don't I take that very, very seriously. So yeah, you could just listen to my voice. Good thing I don't have my my camera on right now, or you'd see my eyes. So yeah, so I guess the short answer to your question is yes. I take it very seriously. But at the same time, simultaneously, I am trying to entertain readers. I'm trying to tell a good story. But it is all undergirded by, hopefully, if I'm doing justice to my readers and justice to my creator, it is undergirded by the cardinal virtues and those sorts of things. Hopefully that's a good answer to your question. Neostar, I can relate. The character consistency is important. Let's see. Doug, do you think newly introduced characters should get dedicated pages to build them up in a story, or be shown alongside the main character so momentum in the story isn't lost? So, Pepe, I would say it. I know this might sound like a cop out, but it really just depends on the story and what the story demands. So you can't just have like a one size fits all solution for everything. A lot of it depends on where you want to go with the character down the line. If it's a newly introduced character and they're not going to be like that big of a major deal, you can do it gradually. But I mean, a really good scene, you could have even just one panel. If you could have one exchange between the main character and the newly introduced character to the side character, you can have dialogue or an action or a subtle exchange between the two people that speaks volumes and actually moves the character along forward. So it's one of those things where brevity is the soul of wit. If you're doing it correctly, you don't need a lot of creative real estate to have an emotional impact. And since this is a Soulfinder stream, I mean, I'll just go into, Warcry. That was the whole. I mean, there's a lot of things going on with Warcry, but it's a short story. It's only 12 pages, but I wanted to see if I could make an emotional impact in a short amount of time. It's just like poems. Sometimes you only have one stanza, or you could even go down to like haiku or something along those lines, where if the author is doing their job, you can leave a mark. You can leave a psychological or spiritual mark on someone. You could brand them in a good way or a bad way, where you have sizzled a message into someone's brain and it is there for years and years and years. Now, I'm not saying I want to do that in a bad way with someone with Warcry, but I do want to leave a mark, but a good mark on people. I want them to think about serious subjects. I want them to think about their own mortality. Memento mori. You can die at any moment. I could have a heart attack right now on this stream, and I'm out of here. By the way, if I die in the next couple days, Iconic Comics, Matt, keep going forward with Soulfinder Volume 4. And hey, you get all the profits, you guys. Work it out amongst yourselves. You're all very professional. Again, my point is you don't need a lot of time to progress a character. But again, it's all on a case-by-case basis. So you might say, like, listen, this is where I want to go with this character over the course of 6 issues. But I want to take my time. But again, you don't know how long you're going to be around for. So on some level, it's a roll of the dice. And so I have my first main arc of Soulfinder is the major arcs are like, it's the 6 volumes. I could die tomorrow. I could get in a car accident. Actually, yesterday when we landed the plane, there was turbulence and we did a touch and go landing, which the only time I'd ever seen it. I've seen videos where a plane hits the runway and there was a miscommunication with the tower or whatever, and there's like another plane that's like on the runway and he's got to take off right away. But also, if it's bad weather or icy and you hit the landing strip and you don't have enough time to hit the brakes and stop, they will then hit the engines and do it like. That's what we did yesterday. So my wife and I were landing and boom, we touched down and we're rolling across the ground for like maybe 5 seconds. I don't know. And then the pilot just guns the engine and we're like, and we just like took off again. And I had never been in a plane where they actually did a touch and go sort of landing before. So I was like, oh boy, well, at least Iconic has the books. And so then we went around and it was, turbulence or whatever. And we came in for a success on the second try. So that was good. But usually like the pilots after the flight, you know how they're, hey, thanks for flying American Airlines, United Airlines, Delta, yada, yada, yada. Now they were huddled in the cockpit and they were looking at some sort of charts or I don't even know what. So I don't know what happened. I think what happened was there was turbulence and they were going fast to try and offset the turbulence because when we fly into Reno, it's kind of like a weird area. And my guess is there was some strange air patterns or whatever. So they're going fast to deal with the turbulence and then they didn't have enough runway and had to take off again. But anyway, again, point is you could die tomorrow. So each author, each writer is going to handle these situations differently. Again, hopefully that's not a cop-out on my part, but it's very difficult. I don't like to give people like, hey, this is the blueprint. You gotta follow this. The key is essentially make sure your characters are acting consistently and make sure that their actions flow logically from who they are. And ultimately, you're going to get to where you want to go as long as you're always like, okay, does this make sense for the character? Would they say this? Would they do this? Because if I feel weird about it, then there's going to be readers that feel weird about it. And even when you feel good about it, there's going to be readers that don't feel good about it. And some of them are going to let you know. And then you got to rein in. I was telling someone today, I got to rein in my combative nature. I sometimes people say things to me and I want to say something back. I'm like, no, I just rate it in. Don't say what you want to say. Let's see here. David is here. Thanks for tuning in. I've ordered hardcover and waiting expectantly to get it. Oh, very cool, David. I appreciate that. So yeah, I got the hardcovers right before I went to Montana. Did a final quality control check. Again, Iconic did the quality control. Thank you so much, guys and gals at Iconic, for putting in the work after they have other jobs. They're juggling all sorts of stuff, working late on Soulfinder stuff, working late on Common America, Black Ops, Arc Athena, all this. Can't thank them enough. They rock. You know who you are. So yeah. Anyway, David, you shouldn't have to wait too long to get your book. And I hope you enjoy it. I hope you like the story. And if you like the story, it's building. We're going somewhere with all of this. So you will see the demons that you've all seen along the way. I got plans. I got plans for Volume 6. Neostar Productions Soulfinder will bring us back home. I think I've joked about it before. My wife always does the Hot Pockets commercials where it's like, Hot Pockets. But she does Soulfinder. I always wanted to do a mock commercial for Soulfinder that incorporated the Hot Pockets jingle in it. Chris, Doug, you're killing it with Soulfinder. The writing and art are both great, especially those covers. Infinite Ascent's cutout spider is one of the best effects I've seen on a cover. Now, here's the thing, Chris. One, thank you. Two, at some point in time, I may do a lenticular cover that makes the spider pop out even more. That was on the agenda, but I can't go into details about why it didn't happen this time around. Now, here's the thing. If you guys think indie comics has its own soap opera sort of element to it, the printing business has its own soap operas to it as well. I wish I could tell you some of the stories about the printing business and all of the roller coaster ride that is trying to get indie comic books printed in a timely manner, in a professional way, at a fair cost to the readers. Because, man, that is an art unto itself in terms of handling the printing minefields here and there and everywhere. So, all right. So my wife just texted me. I am glancing at it and I'm hoping, okay, so hopefully my wife doesn't barge in here and say something bizarre because I'm streaming now and she wasn't sure. Let's see. James, characters have stories to be told that may not be the story you originally intended. That is true. So as time has gone on, there's been some stuff with Chua that sort of surprised me and ideas that popped up. And I'm just like, hey, this is interesting. I want to tell this story. And a lot of readers, they're like, man, I really like Chua. And I do have a standalone story I want to tell with him in terms of a cold case that he takes on. He takes it upon himself to go back to this particular cold case and try and solve it for a friend. And there's all sorts of ramifications that take place because he's trying to do things that maybe he should have told his friend that he's taking this case on. And what happens when you try and keep secrets from people that you care about? Is that a right thing? How truthful do you have to be with people? Lies of omission. So actually, Pepe was asking earlier about how I start with stories. And so there's the cold case with Chua is one where I basically was like, oh, like he would want to take on this cold case. But then the big idea was truthfulness and transparency. And again, lies of omission with people. Like, what are the consequences of lies of omission? And those are tricky because sometimes you're like, well, I don't need to tell somebody this or that, the other thing. But then sometimes it's like, well, are you lying to yourself and then lying by omission? And then that causes all sorts of problems. So the big idea with the Chua story that I'd like to tell at some point in time, God willing, is again about truthfulness, transparency, lies of omission, and the consequences of maybe having good intentions, but your good intentions lead you to maybe do things that are actually wrong, that are not good. And then dealing with the consequences of that, the blast radius of your dishonesty with loved ones or whatnot, or something along those lines. Anyway, so now I'm in the process with Chua where my brain is sort of putting things together, and I'm like, I don't know when I'm going to tell this story, but I'm organizing it. I've created my own Chua compartment in my brain where it's just that it's, or stovepipe or whatever you want to say. I shouldn't say stovepipe because it's all connected, but where my brain is working on the Chua story and organizing it, but then I'm also working on volume 5, which I got to start writing soon, and I'm also working on volume 6. So my brain is simultaneously trying to organize all 3 of these stories as much as I can, unlimited amount of knowledge, and haven't done research on volume 6 yet. But it's all kind of coming together. And then I want it to just be ready to go when I'm ready to go with the writing. And then basically when I write, usually it's essentially like a couple weeks where I almost don't sleep and I don't really eat. And my brain is just like racing, and I even don't really get that much sleep. Like I'll wake up I was talking about like telling my brain to do certain tasks. I will wake up at 3:00 in the morning and my brain is just racing with ideas and like sometimes entire pages and dialogue and whatever. It's like just literally, speaking of like imprinted earlier, it's like a projector screen somewhere on the back of my head where it's just like there, boom, boom, just these blocks of text that I want. And it's just, it's like hard to explain, but it's just like there. And then at some point in time, sometimes like it's the middle of the night and I'm like, I might as well just write. So I'll just like crawl out of bed, try not to wake my wife up, go to the computer, start writing away. And then anyway, after the script is done, at least a solid first draft, and I like it, then I'll essentially like pass out and then wake up like 14 hours later. Like my body will just like try and catch up on all the sleep. Something along those lines. Let's see. Neostar. Personally, I'd love a theme song. Well, there is the Soulfinder theme song by Shilava. The one for the Soulfinder crossover with Black Ops and Common America was beautiful. Yeah, there you go. Sorry I cut you off there. Should have read the whole comment. Neostar Productions. I actually like Chua. He feels like the Inspector Lestrade of Soulfinder. Yeah, he's basically he doesn't have the spiritual authority to say deliverance prayers that only a priest has. He's the everyman. He's the laity. He's much more. He's got a little bit of a short temper or trigger or something along those lines for numerous reasons. If you read Soulfinder Infinite Ascent, people that haven't, you will know why. He's got some maybe anger issues along the way that he's picked up. And so yeah, I definitely have a lot of fun with him. And sometimes people have talked about this before. They're just like, oh, is this just what is it, self-fulfillment, or this is your like your own character, you're just putting yourself into the character, self-insert, blah 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 blah. And my response is like, every single character has a piece of me in it somewhere. It's not me, but they have pieces of me. So it's unfair to call, you could call any character a self-insert. Like even the demons to some extent, because when I sin, I'm essentially doing the will. I'm falling outside of God's authority, and I'm essentially doing the will of demons. So, I mean, you could just keep going down. Someone's going to take this out of context. Douglas Ertz said that he sees himself in the demons, and like totally take it out of context. But no, every single character has pieces of me in it, and I can relate to every single character along the way. Sadly, unfortunately, even the most sinful characters, the fallen angels, the demons, I can relate to on here and there. I mean, especially in Soulfinder 3, I try to make the demons have very quote unquote tempting cases. And it would be a boring story if the demon was just spouting off nonsense. I need to give them a very convincing case at times, and it's not going to be fun for the reader if Redder can just listen and laugh at what the demon says. But it's much more entertaining, and it's much more worthwhile if Redder has to basically wrestle with himself over what to do and what's right, and if he is tempted and all these sorts of things. So who knows? I could go on for quite some time. Let's see what I want to say before. I don't want to have this go too long. Tagia, hey Doug, I wish I could watch live, but RPG tonight. My ex Special Forces guys will, YouTube will probably get me this. Will take somebody out for that. Ernst Butt in the system is Feng Shui 2 for anyone wondering. I'll download the stream tomorrow. Tagia, thanks for tuning in. Appreciate it. Yep, download the stream at your convenience. And similarly, one of the things I've said before about having the Soulfinder books on the website is people can get them at their convenience when it works with their wallet. So this is what I wanted to say before I lose track. Sometimes people ask me about crowdfunding and whether I don't like it and blah, 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 blah. No, I have nothing against crowdfunding per se. I have friends who literally crowdfund. Tim, Mark, we literally had the crossover event last summer with Soulfinder, was involved with Tim and Mark's books. I was very happy with that. I was very happy with the response. I don't have anything against crowdfunding per se, but I do have a thing against certain mentalities that take root within crowdfunding, where it takes the focus away from the art and the story, and it makes it like it's like crowdfunding is some sort of casino, I don't know, like weirdo blood sport match or something like that, where it just gets like kind of sophomoric and dumb to me. And I to me, I just want to write the best stories that I can, and I want to put forth the best overall product I can. So to the sense I'm competing with anyone, I'm competing against myself when I look in the mirror every single day and like, did I do the best job that I could on this book for my readers? And again, to reiterate from earlier, did I do the best job I could to honor my creator? Because if the answer is no, then that sucks. And I got to regroup and figure out how to do a better job tomorrow or on the next book or whatever. It's all about minimizing mistakes, becoming more efficient, and just becoming a better version of myself, today than I was yesterday. Every day I'm trying to, basically, I'm competing with the ghosts of Doug past or something along those lines. And so that's what we're trying to do. But the one thing that I like about going to the Iconic Comics website immediately is that I have cultivated Matt, myself, Bill Williams. Bill, if you're listening, thanks again for lettering. I appreciate it. I appreciate all that you did with the digital files, putting those together for Amazon. All of this. Speaking of which, Spanish and Japanese translations of Demon's Match coming soon. Making edits on the Japanese right now, and I got to get to the Spanish as well. But anyway, Bill, appreciate you as well. Team Soulfinder has cultivated a reader base that just primarily cares about the story and good stories and good art and getting books in a timely manner and a fair price. So I don't need to even be on YouTube that much. I just need to drop the book like boom, here you go. Here's a book. It's good. If you want it, great. If you don't, hey, maybe I'll convince you down the road. Maybe one of your friends will convince you. Maybe your sister, your brother, your dad, or your mom, or your grandma, or someone else will convince you. If you don't like me, maybe your friend who says Soulfinder is a good book will convince you. Maybe you'll have so many people on social media tweeting their joy at receiving their Soulfinder books and their rosaries and all sorts of other stuff and their Iconic Comics packages and cards and all sorts of stuff that you'd be like, you know what? I really don't like this guy, Doug, as a person, but it appears as though the evidence indicates that he might know a thing or two about this writing thing. I like a lot of people seem to like the cut of his jib when it comes to the writing thing. I might have to check him out. And maybe I'll keep it on the down low. Maybe I won't tell too many people because I know other people don't really like him that much. But it appears as though these books are very entertaining. So this will be my little guilty pleasure. This will be my little secret. I will privately not really like this guy, but I will like his writing. I'm okay with that. If I'm doing my job, me as the writer, I disappear into the background. And if people are surprised, if I'm at a booth, if I'm at Bell County Comic Con and someone's just like, "Oh, you're the creator?" I didn't even know. I just like Soulfinder. I don't really care. Like it, in fact, if somebody humbles me, that's a good thing. You're doing me a favor if you humble me. So all of you people out there who are, again, you little lurkers, who randomly take shots at me and tell me how much I suck, thank you. Thank you for that. Thank you for humbling me. I need to be humbled on a regular basis. So God's providence, permissive will allows you to tell me how much I suck on a yearly basis because he's giving me an opportunity to show my charity and show a little bit of humility and grow in the humility, the virtue of humility. So again, thank you. James, my great grandfather told me to buy Soulfinder books. Of course, being a ghost, he doesn't read them himself. Neostar Productions, I feel you, Doug. I hope to make this a more productive and fruitful year than the last. 2023 will be the year of Riserman. All right, James, let's see. Just don't be humbled by the Iron Sheik. Let's see. Chris says, I'm very interested in the Chua Soul story you mentioned, but I also love to see a story focused on Father Reginald Crane. Well, yeah, you will definitely get that this year, man. The Vietnam story, Matt Weldon. Again, Matt is knocking it out of the park every single time. He turns in some inks. I'm like, dude, look at this. And the thing that I like about Matt, I mean, I like a lot of things about Matt, but he has this highly detailed imagery, but he knows when to use the detail and when to pull back a little bit. So it's like you got the highly detailed grass and I'm not an artist here. So if I'm, not speaking very eloquently again, I apologize, but you can kind of get what I'm saying. So the highly detailed grass in the foreground here, then in the background, you got the rain. It's not really that detailed. You just know it's pouring rain in the background. He doesn't need to do a whole lot with that. And then the actual characters where it needs to be finely detailed, it's detailed, and where it's not, again, it's not. So you got the gun highly detailed. You got who cares about the pants, but he's got the proper creases and their place. Boom, bam, boom. Got the hair. Matt is a master at hair of all kinds. Very cool. Got the Kiro symbol and this sort of the monkish, Catholic monkish outfit going on. Very cool. Matt also good with crosshatch, all that sort of stuff. I could go on and on and on. Can't wait to see this colored with the lightning and all of that sort of stuff. So, Chris, thanks for tuning in. Appreciate it, man. Let's see, Rick. I got a lot of respect for artists that can draw guns. Yeah, I totally agree with you there. No argument from me on that. Matt, if you are listening, awesome job, dude. All right. Let's see if there's anything else there's more Iron Sheik comments going on. Let's see. James. All right. Tagia. All right. I think that's about it. I really just wanted to circle back and let people know. Bam, Infinite Ascent hardcovers, gold gilding. Got the white ribbon on this one. We got the rosaries. There's very limited number of the Kiro left. There's limited of the normal ones, but they're a lot easier to replenish when they sell out. But the Kiro ones, the metal was cast in Ukraine. I don't think that they would mind me saying that. So I'm not, making any political case or whatever. But the guy who cast the metal is from Ukraine. And as everybody knows, there's a lot of stuff going on there. So it's very tough to get the centerpiece with those. And so it was very tough to get these 100. Thank you for everyone who's given them a good home. I appreciate that. If you are using the rosary for its intended purposes, thank you very much. Again, early bird special for the first month, the hardcover books. You get the hardcover book, you'll get War Cry for free for at least the first week. I'm sorry. For the first month, the hardcover books, $20, at least the first month. We'll see if I extend it or not. I'm not sure. And then for the first week, War Cry for free if you get the hardcover book. So there's that. I don't know where we'll go in the future, but it definitely pays to get them early on if you are an early adopter. So we have all sorts of combinations possible. If you like that, cool. If you like the books, help me spread the word. The grassroots support for Soulfinder has been insane for years. I cannot thank you enough. Dude, without getting into the details, you guys know who doesn't want to say a word about what's going on the website and all this sort of stuff. So we rely on the readers who are excited about the stories to spread the word, and you keep doing it over and over and over again. And I can't thank you enough, because your support allowed me to tell corporate media and my new boss, when my old boss left, my new boss came in, and she was trying to micromanage me and do all sorts of weird stuff like it was my first year on the job. You allowed me to be like, see you later, sucker. And so I walked away from corporate media. I've been doing this, and I've been having a blast with Matt and Bill and Timothy Lim and Mark Pellegrini and Eric Canetti and all the people at Iconics and Rangemaster Dan, if you're out there, and your family, and Scribbles, and everybody that I meet at Bell County Comic Con every year. You guys rock. And all the shows, people that have come to the shows. When I was down in Mobile, Alabama, not too long ago before Christmas, you know who you are. If you came to the booth, thank you so much. I was even able to spend a day with a reader, like a long time reader who's followed me since I was at the Heritage Foundation. It was just super cool. So I appreciate all the support, and especially on Twitter. There are times, there are people that will always retweet. They will always they will almost all the time. And I'm just like, this is like the nicest person ever. like how do I, so if for no other reason, I try to do a better job on every single book, because I know that there are people that are like spreading the word. They don't need to. They could just look at me like, oh, another tweet on Soulfinder, whatever. But they don't. They're always sharing. They're always spreading the word. They're always telling people in their sphere of influence about the books. And it just keeps, and then every single year, there's usually like some pay dirt. There's like some Catholic organization, or sometimes there's like mainstream news, whatever. There's somebody along the way, like, boom, it just gets into their hands, and there's like a spike in sales. So I don't know. It's been awesome. I can't thank you enough. A blessing to be able to do this. And yeah, thank you for everything. All right, guys, I will probably be back with another live stream in the near future, especially the next 30 days. I will try and get on here often. I'll try and do a couple videos in terms of promo videos. I don't know. We'll figure something out. But again, thanks for everything, and I'll see you guys later. See you.